Everyone thought he was out of the race. Any other driver would have given up by that point, saying, I'm not getting out of here. Somehow, somehow reversed out of there to get back in the Grand Prix. Aussies never give up. Hello everyone, welcome to Straight Talks F1. I honestly do not wish to do this episode, but it needs to be done because the Australian Grand Prix was a fabulous season opener. Firstly, the rain was always going to spice things up in the race, but the sheer chaos it caused with crashes left, right, and center, even seasoned campaigners like Alonso and Sainz crashed out. Like when Alonso crashed, I did feel like they should have red flagged it. But yeah, at the front, everything was going superb. Oscar Piastri was in the fight for the win. It looked utopian that an Australian driver will be winning the Australian Grand Prix. That too in Melbourne, in his home city. And then the rain intensified with everyone on slick tires. The moment of seeing Piastri go off on the grass at that penultimate corner. Oh, it was heartbreaking. Over 400,000 people had turned up across the weekend just to see Oscar Piastri. Imagine the roar he would have got had he won the race. The roar that he got on his final Q3 lap, that was a marker, and Albert Park would have gone crazy if Oscar Piastri had won that race. But it just wasn't meant to be. Still, he did manage to come back somehow. That just shows Aussie grit. Aussies never give up. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about that at length and how he had the chance to win the race. But yeah, besides the agony, there was a lot of other dramatic events that happened in Melbourne. But firstly, I'll get into the rant about Piastri's heartbreak. Now, sure, Oscar Piastri did not get that start right, lost a place to Max Verstappen, but later in the stint, he was damn quick, even in the wet, where Verstappen really excels. He put him under pressure and got past him as the Dutchman made a mistake. And after that, it was all Piastri masterclass. He was the fastest car in the field, closing in on Norris lap by lap, chipping away at that gap. He came so close to overtaking Norris, consistently reducing that gap and got within 3 tenths. 3 to 4 tenths was the gap at the middle point of the race. And that is when McLaren chose to come on the radio and ask him to hold position. I mean, seriously, hold position at that point when he could have got the lead. And he was the faster driver. He said that on the radio. He was the faster driver among him and Norris. Sure, they would want to safeguard their drivers first, ensure that they don't crash out. Those were really tricky conditions. Anything could have happened. But so much for trusting their drivers. All the papaya rules and free to race shenanigans. Then 5 laps later, he was told that he can race. They are free to race. And by that point, he had dropped back to hold position basically. The gap was 2.8 seconds. He also made a mistake in there during that period. So it was just stupid from McLaren. Like, how is he supposed to recover that gap again? It had already taken him 8-9 laps for the first time around to get that close to Norris. And now he had to do that again. Obviously, that wasn't possible because afterwards the race unfolded into more chaos. So it was just pathetic from McLaren that they just took that opportunity away from Piastri to win his home race. Now, does this change the fact that Piastri and Norris later went off? I don't think so. They would have anyways gone off the track because the conditions were very tricky. So, irrespective of Piastri being in the lead or Norris being in the lead, one of the cars would have had that sort of a fate. It was unlucky. One of the cars would have ended up in that manner, the way Piastri did. Maybe it would have been Norris. Who knows? Nothing they could have done about it. So, it was just unfortunate. The conditions were tricky. It started raining heavily. So going off deeper into the previous corner, his car had more momentum that he just couldn't control on time. It just all happened within seconds. And everyone thought he was out of the race. Even the official timing tower listed him as out. Any other driver would have given up by that point, saying, I am stuck over here, I have beached the car, I'm not getting out of here. But he just kept his calm, somehow reversed out of there to get back in the Grand Prix. Aussies never give up. It was still gut wrenching, but the way he got back in the race, had there been more laps, maybe 20-25 laps remaining at that point, who knows, he could have even recovered further. Like, I can't believe, despite having the fastest car, Piastri did not win the Australian Grand Prix. He had the fastest car and he was the fastest driver. Kudos to Lando Norris, he was great, kept his nose clean. It's a deserved win for him. But Piastri was just that tad bit faster. Eventually recovered to P9. An amazing overtake on the last lap on Lewis Hamilton to get to P9 at that fast chicane at turn 9 and 10. That sort of a move in rainy conditions when the track is wet on the final lap on a 7-time world champion. Take a bow, Oscar Piastri, and he's just shown with that move and with his performance and pace today that he's a worthy championship contender. I am sure, even though he only stands at 2 points after the season opener, but Piastri is going to contend for the title besides Norris this season. Verstappen will obviously be there, but Piastri will be that championship challenger if Norris is the top guy. The only saving grace about this loss in Melbourne for Piastri would be the season opener curse. Now, apparently, whoever has won the first race of the season since 2017, except for Max Verstappen, has finished second in the driver standings. So Vettel in 2017-18, Bottas in 2019 and 2020, Hamilton in 21, Leclerc in 22. All of them finished second that season. And of course, the last 2 years, Verstappen won the season opener, but he defied that trend and still won the championship because he's a superhuman. And even if that trend is ignored, I would still root for Piastri to win the WDC in 2025. Yeah, he would have had a heartbreaking loss in Melbourne, but it's just the first race of 24 races. A lot can happen in this long season. So fingers crossed. Now, talking about Williams, I had said after testing that Williams have become an improved team, that car looks improved. But oh boy, is this the same Williams? I don't think this is not the same Williams we know. Surely not. Come on, both cars in the top 10 in qualifying on merit and then finishing P4 on the road. P5 finish eventually for Alex Albon, but a top 5 in the first race? Like, this is superb. If Williams can consistently deliver such top performances over the course of a season, consistently, that's the key word. This is unbelievable. I know it may not be possible every single time, but that's what Williams need right now. Consistency and improvement at the same time. If this is their pace on merit every other weekend, then the top 10 consistently fighting for the points. This car really seems to have taken a step forward, and with Albon and Sainz both up there, their driver lineup obviously is potentially one of the best. Vowles has time and again said the same thing. And yeah, Sainz just might have fallen short in this weekend. His first one for Williams, could have qualified higher. His race did not last for long, but still, the potential of Carlos Sainz, when the Spaniard delivers at his level best, this Williams team can really punch above its weight. Alex Albon has been doing that for the past 3 years. Now he's got a really good competitive teammate. Yeah, he will take time to understand that car, he will get there. But man, Albon in Australia, he's a different beast. 3 years ago, he did that mammoth stint on the hard tyre for 57 laps before pitting on the final lap to get 1 point. And again, he just knows how to deliver in Melbourne. Taking that Williams car to P5, and on merit, he was keeping the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton behind. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton is also bedding in with Ferrari, understanding that car. Keeping behind a driver like Hamilton, that is hugely commendable. If it wasn't for the Antonelli penalty being revoked later, it would have been a top 4 finish. One more car going off, and Williams are getting a podium on merit. They are cooking. I hope this isn't just an early season thing, that they are good in the early part of the season and then later drop off to being P7 and P8 in the standings. I hope not. If they can stay in this position, 2026 could be utopia for the Grove Base team. You never know. Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon in a top running Williams car that fights for podiums and wins. Yeah, I could be running away with my imagination here, but you think about it, where were McLaren 2 years ago? They were in a similar situation. In the midfield, almost demoted to a backmarker, and then see the kind of recovery they have made. Where are they now? They are the champion team and they are fighting for the win up front. So you never know. And a year ago, at this same track in Australia, Williams was struggling with crashes. They had to bench Logan Sargent to give Alex Albon the only remaining car they had. There was shortage of parts at their factory. They were running on thin ice in terms of finances and operations. So this is quite the turnaround. This year has been really good in terms of operational improvement. The car being ready before testing, it's superb. And the team dynamic as well. After Sainz DNF'd, he was helping in Albon's strategy on the pit wall. So that's how closely knit this team is. On a team dynamic level, this is perfect. To have your driver on the pit wall assisting with the strategy, because he knows the conditions firsthand. So he would understand his teammates' perspective. And Carlos and Alex also seem to be getting along well. So yeah, he definitely deserves some credit for the top 5 finish. Even that little bit of insight, both Vowles and Albon said that it was crucial to them nailing the strategy in that final stint. So overall, the FW47's pace is just promising. And with this team dynamic and the kind of technical program they are developing behind the scenes, moving ahead, I feel that if they can keep up this on all fronts, on the technical side, on the driver side, on the strategy, Williams are so back. They will be the smooth operators. So people may start to feel that Carlos Sainz may not have taken a step back really in his career. Yeah, sure, it is a step back as things stand. But in the future, this could be an investment that could pay him dividends. So let's see what happens. Now, the Ferrari clown show was back after months of absence, but this time around it was the sophisticated version, almost like the movie Joker, intense and gripping madness. Folie, yeah, Ferrari. I mean, just unbelievable how they were handling their drivers, how the strategy was almost botched up. Like, this wasn't the Ferrari we have seen under Fred Vasseur over the past year and a half. It was frustratingly scary to me. Now that I look back on the race in hindsight, it wasn't stupid, it was scary. They have made it seem like they will be championship contenders in 2025 throughout the winter. It felt like, oh yes, Ferrari, this is our year. We are going to be up there. And that fell true as well because the kind of season they had last year, they bounced back from a slump, finished off only 14 points behind McLaren. So you naturally think they will be fighting for the title, and this time both the titles. But here we go again. I don't know what to say. It was like the third installment of the Joker movie franchise. Things you don't understand but had deeper subtext connected to the overall plot. Like, is it just the car that's not up to the mark and they have to develop it further? Is Hamilton's dynamic with his team and engineers yet to be sorted? Or just plainly that they haven't taken the kind of step up they were aiming to over the winter? Probably all of the above. Like Hamilton and his engineer Ricardo Adami, they were certainly not on the same page. So much back and forth on the radio. And it isn't like people are saying that he was missing Bono and the kind of close dynamic he had with Bonington. But even with him, they had an understanding. And Hamilton isn't like Verstappen who will slam his engineer. Max often does that with GP and then obviously get back together to sort it out after the race or even on the radio at times. Hamilton has done back and forth with Bono, but the understanding used to reflect. So Hamilton needs to sit with his engineer. It's just one race. He has worked there for over just a month. So obviously he will take time to settle. That's understandable. So hopefully he sorts that out for his own good. And on the other side of the garage, Charles Leclerc. His engineer was on another trip, Brian Bossi. He was alright last year after he replaced Javi, but it seems like he had spoken with Xavi over the winter and started behaving like him. Like that radio call. Leclerc is complaining about water leaking, maybe, and he asks, leakage of what? When he gets the reply that there is water, this guy replies with, oh, must be the water. Like, right, Captain Obvious. Amazing response. He knows it's water. The response should have been some sort of potential reasoning. There's a reason Leclerc gets frustrated a lot with Ferrari, and he knows that he can't say much in the press conferences, in the media, but he must be having some sort of candid thoughts. Hamilton doesn't know this team inside out, but Leclerc does. So he must be frustrated within to see the kind of engineering that happens, the kind of communication that happens. Under Vassar, I thought it had decreased and things had become better, but I think there is some sort of issue still there within the Ferrari team and the way things are communicated. Vassar needs to sit with everyone, because this seems like a rusty outfit that has turned up at the season opener after a long winter and it isn't in the groove. Like, they can develop the car to get back in the fight. They have done that last year. But when the team dynamic is broken and the decision making can be haywire, that won't help at all, especially if they want to fight for the championship. So Ferrari needs to shut down the clown show as soon as possible. Like, I didn't feel much during the race watching Ferrari because I had given up on them right after qualifying. I was focusing on Piastri the whole time because he was the one fighting for the lead. And in hindsight, we can understand how much of a stinker this race has been for Ferrari
Language.
relative to the high preseason expectations, where we thought, oh yes, Ferrari are fighting McLaren for the title. They need a lot of time, maybe 3 4 races before they get in the title fight, really, if they at all do. Now, there were a lot of memes about how there are 5 or 6 rookies on the grid, and that would mean chaos in terms of overtaking, in terms of crashes. Of course, there are 6 rookies if you count Liam Lawson, but given he has started in 11 races previously, people are not willing to consider him a rookie. So we'll say there were 5 rookies, even though that debate will carry on. But yeah, 5 rookies in Australia really created a lot of chaos. Crashes galore. Like, it was surprisingly Oliver Behrman who was the first one to falter. The guy who had raced 3 times last season, who should be doing the best among this batch of rookies, he had 2 crashes in free practice itself. So obviously the others would be expected to crash at some point, and they did, except for one. They all did. But yeah, talking about Behrman first, Haas were firstly abysmal. They were actually dead last. They did not sandbag during Bahrain testing. I will eat my words. Haas did not sandbag. They did not have hidden pace. And Racing Bulls have taken a step forward. Now, to be fair, they brought an upgrade, and that is why they were quicker in Australia. In Bahrain, they weren't looking that good. But yeah, Racing Bulls did much better than Haas, who I thought would definitely deliver like they did last year, but that wasn't the case. I don't know what has happened with Haas, but they are dead last. And Behrman, yeah, the 2 crashes, can't really say much about it. It's just that he was horrible and he could do much better. He has done much better. So yeah, maybe on wet race weekends, Behrman doesn't do that well because he also crashed and spun in Sao Paulo last year. stepping in for Magnussen for that one epic race in Brazil. So who knows, we'll figure that out. That would be a new for a British driver. But yeah, as for RB, I was wrong about them. I was wrong about Haas as well. Contrasting form for both teams. But unfortunately, RB's rookie driver, Isaac Hazard, couldn't capitalize on that. He crashed out on the formation lap. Unreal scenes. Feel sorry for him, but yeah, that's Formula 1. It's brutal, and he's only 20, so he will learn. And this batch of rookies, it is totally a young generation. I just rechecked their ages when they had a round table. Jack Doohan is the oldest of them at 22. Yeah, that's right. Jack Doohan is 22. You have got Kimi Antonelli, who's 18. Gabriel Bortoleto, who's 20. Isaac Hazard as well, 20. Behrman, of course, 19. So the average age is under 20 years, 19.8 years. That is the 2025 batch of rookies. So yeah, they will understand the realities of the sport firsthand in 2025. And Behrman obviously got that to experience in his first full-time race for Haas, being plumb last after crashing in practice twice. Hazard was knocked out on the formation lap, and he had qualified well actually. He'd qualified in 11th, so he had been in the fight, exploiting the pace of that car. But yeah, that was the case for Behrman and Hazard. Next up, Jack Doohan. Now, Helmut Marko had called him a C grade driver and that he may not last the season. Now, yes, there are rumors about Doohan getting replaced at Alpine, Franco Colapinto being in the wings as a reserve, but somebody needs to stop Helmut Marko. Even if Doohan gets sacked midway, he has no right to comment. Yes, he's a veteran of the sport. He's got several young drivers to the sport, but he needs to look after his own promoted drivers this season, Lawson and Hazard. There's no need of calling Doohan a C grade driver or Bortoleto a B grade driver. Even if Doohan gets sacked, Bortoleto's here to stay. I'll talk about him later, but Doohan particularly, yeah, he did crash in the initial laps of the Grand Prix. The rainy conditions was just too tricky. It was a similar crash to Hazard, getting his tire on the white line and spinning out. So the street circuit nature of Albert Park with those white lines did not help rookies. It did not even spare seasoned campaigners like Sainz and Alonso. And Gabriel Bortoleto, being Alonso's prodigy, just a few laps after Alonso had crashed out, Bortoleto, like an obedient prodigy, like an obedient mentee, followed his mentor. But yeah, it was unfortunate for Bortoleto. He could not make it to the end. He was actually running a very decent race. That Sauber looked better than the Haas. Bortoleto and Hulkenberg, they were both running really well. Amid that chaos in the second half of the race, Hulkenberg really gained. He scored points, got to P7. I thought Bortoleto could have also been on the fringes of points or even scored points, who knows. So hard luck for Bortoleto. He was looking good. The suspected reason for his crash was that there was an issue on his rear suspension. Probably that rear suspension broke or collapsed, something happened, and that induced his spin. So it may not be his fault completely that he went wide or dipped the wheel on the white lines to spin out. But yeah, there was only one survivor left, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Honestly, I feel saying Kimi Antonelli is cleaner, but saying that three-worded full name just feels damn good. Andrea Kimi Antonelli was superb. On debut, he was knocked out in Q1, but recovered superbly to get past the entire field and finish P4. Yeah, he got that penalty for the unsafe release and all, but even if he had finished P5, had the penalty stood, it would have been a superb drive. Like, what a drive on debut. Amazing to see a rookie driver reducing that sort of a performance and stepping in the shoes of a 7-time world champion who's been the North Star for Mercedes for 12 years. So he has to fill the big shoes of Hamilton. In his first race at least, he's done a decent job. And if he's going to improve from here on, I'm expecting big things for Antonelli. But yeah, does this mean all other rookies are bad? Certainly not. Bortoleto and Hazard, the two F2 rivals, they have definitely shown promise. Behrman as well. We have already seen what Behrman can do last year. Hopefully, this was a one-off for him and he bounces back well. Doohan is on thin ice though. He needs to show that he's top tier because he's kinda a driver like Pierre Gasly and Carlos Sainz, who may never win a world championship perhaps. But that is the truth. Like Gasly and Sainz know that they are really good midfield drivers. They are Grand Prix winners, but will they get a championship winning car or fight for the championship someday? Maybe not. So Doohan is in that category, but folks like Helmut Marko and Alpine and Flavio Briatore, who is from the same farm as Helmut Marko, basically, they are writing him off. Briatore may have given him that promotion, but deep down he's regretting, and that's the reason they brought in Colapinto. So Doohan needs to show that he can be that good midfield driver, or perhaps better, and at least have that ambition like Sainz and Gasly have to maybe one day fight for the title. Because when you aim higher, people at least give you respect for where you are or where you can reach during that journey. So hopefully, Dua needs to be wary. He needs to start delivering. He cannot have crashes like these. Alpine can easily shortchange him. Knowing Flavio Briatore, 3 or 4 more crashes like these, which are a lot, he will rightfully replace Doohan with Colapinto or whoever he wants to, given Alpine have 4 drivers now in reserve, but it would mostly be Colapinto. So hopefully Doohan saves his seat. So it was the perfect season opener, a wet race, amazing action, crashes, chaos, a battle for the lead. Australia lived up to the hype, and it was so refreshing to see the pecking order. There are teams like Mercedes, Williams, RB who have gained a lot. Ferrari and Haas may have dropped the ball a bit. They need to recover. Red Bull is somehow hanging on, and then you have Alpine and Sauber who may be mercurial. Some days they would be really, really good, getting a top 5 finish. Some day they may be pinned at the back of the grid. Alpine particularly would want to get to where Williams are. But yeah, even for Williams, Mercedes and Racing Bulls, they can also be quite mercurial because this pecking order of the midfield, that's how it is. Unpredictable. Nobody knows who's going to be fast on a particular weekend at a particular track. So yeah, on other subplots, Hamilton's Ferrari debut was definitely one to forget. He did not win the race on debut, like Alonso, like Raikkonen, and Liam Lawson. Even he was on a debut with Red Bull for a top team, and he's a bone of contention. But honestly, people are judging him too quickly. I would have talked at length about Liam Lawson, but this podcast episode may just keep elongating given the kind of wretched weekend he had. But in fact, I would defend him because it's just one race, and people are already comparing him with Perez, with Albon, with Gasly, with Ricardo. Yeah, Ricardo and Perez did well to stay with Verstappen, beat him at times. Albon and Gasly really couldn't take the pressure, but Lawson needs time. Red Bull have given that time to Perez. They need to at least give him one season. People need to give him at least half a season before they start judging him that he's not a good fit. But yeah, I will save it for later when Lawson does well, and hopefully he has the potential. But yeah, heading into the next race weekend in China, which is next week itself, I am not predicting anything. Yes, Norris and Piastri, they will battle up front. That is obvious. Verstappen will be there. Piastri would be looking to redeem himself, to level up with Norris and maybe get back in the fight for the championship. Even Russell might be there. I trust Russell to constantly be up there if Mercedes have this consistently good car and they don't have a roller coaster topsy-turvy season like last year when they are good at a particular track and then suddenly go to fighting for P7 and P8. But yeah, beyond that, I don't know who lands up where. Ferrari may come in suddenly to take pole or just stay in 7th or 8th. And the midfield teams below Ferrari, Williams, Alpine, RB, Sauber, Haas, Aston Martin, they could be anywhere. We saw Albon, Hulk and Stroll score points. Next week it could be somebody else. So it's just bonkers. The midfield battle and the lower midfield, anything can happen. But yeah, that's all from my end in this episode. A really good Australian Grand Prix. I have come to terms a bit with Piastri's loss. It was gut wrenching. He was the faster driver, bottom line. He should have won that race. But yeah, I think it wasn't just meant to be. The way he went off, maybe it was just meant to happen. Maybe this heartbreak was necessary. Who knows, by the end of the season, it just turns out to be a perfect storyline. Having missed out on that home race win in the first race, he comes back to win the championship. Who knows? But yeah, that's all from my end. Arigato and stay tuned until next time.